Life Audio.
Welcome to the Crosswalk Devotional. We're glad to have you listening with us. Today's topic is being found. We'll return with a devotional after a brief message from one of our sponsors.
Hey everybody, I'm Dale.
And I'm Tamara.
And we're hosts of the Kainos Project podcast,
where we help you tackle ancient Christian truths in everyday settings.
The word Kainos means new, and that's exactly what we want to do on our podcast. Bring something new from what is old in our faith.
And on this show, you might hear us explore topics like what the Bible has to say about student loan forgiveness, discuss how the Satanic Temple affects our view of religious liberty in America, or even question why is it that so many people are having rapture anxiety.
To learn more about the podcast, go to lifeaudio.com.
The Historical Jesus Podcast is the sweeping saga of the life and times of Galilean Jesus of Nazareth, as well as the faith, religion, and church founded to honor and disseminate his acts and teachings. Join me, Mark Vinette, on this fascinating journey through time, exploring the many great works of Christian theology, literature, architecture, music, and art inspired by the words and deeds of Jesus Christ.
Lost but Found, written and read by Jessica Van Roekel. And he arose and came to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced him and kissed him. Luke 15:20. I stood in the mess and shook my head. Drawers were turned inside out, stacks of paper lay scattered on the floor. All household tasks were on hold. The kids could wait. I needed to find my marriage license, and fast. I wouldn't be able to renew my driver's license without it, and I had turned the house inside and out, looking for it. Right before my husband called to tell me he paid for a new copy from the courthouse, I found it in the bottom of a filing cabinet stored in the attic. Eureka! What was lost was found. Have you ever searched for something because you knew you had put it somewhere? My family knows when I put something in a safe spot, it's so secure, it's lost. But when I go on a hunt for an important saved item, I'm reminded how the Lord searches and looks for the lost. Jesus used parables, which are short stories, to teach a lesson or make a point. In Luke 15, he used 3 stories to present the purpose of his earthly ministry, which was to show God's desire to save people spiritually so they can have a relationship with him. In the parable of the prodigal son, we discover the consequences of going our own way and the Father's heart for the lost son. The parable opens with a son asking for his inheritance and then leaving on a journey to a far country. The prodigal son wasted his money on people and things that brought little satisfaction. It was like throwing money to the wind and hoping for a return on investment. Eventually, he found himself jealous of pigs because they had more than he did. Too often we go our own way because we believe our way brings satisfaction. We chase after pleasures to be free from authority and restraint. Instead, we find ourselves in a pit of despair and destruction created through reckless living. Our way leads to greater dissatisfaction. The prodigal son in this parable is a picture of us when we rebel against God's standards and love. His love brings freedom, not to do as we please, but to do as he wills. A life pursuing self-motivated pleasure looks like freedom, but it's bondage in disguise. When we come to the end of ourselves like our friend in this parable, we can experience disillusionment, grief, and regret. What we longed for does not fulfill us. We can grieve over time and energy lost. Regret can prevent us from meeting or returning to the Lord who can forgive and redeem. Like the prodigal son who decided his father might accept him back as a hired servant, We can approach God in the same way. Our regrets tell us we'll never be accepted as sons or daughters, so all we can hope for is a partial forgiveness. But Jesus goes on to show the Father's heart in the remaining verses. It can be hard to accept the depth of God's love for us when we have walked so far away from Him and chosen ways of living which stand in direct opposition to His heart. We need a humble heart to admit our wrongdoing and a willingness to live for God's ways. The Father in this parable stands watching and waiting, just as God watches and waits for us. God's great love causes us to be on His mind and longs for our return. He has great compassion for those who are lost or who have gone astray. Then, when we do return, He receives us with love and compassion. He gives us full rights as His children. These are available to all who look to Him, respond to His invitation, and return to Him. His joy overflows, and He welcomes us with open arms. Intersecting faith and life. Do you find yourself lost in the pursuit of your own way? In the end, it leads us further away from Him, and we find ourselves lost. Because of God's mercy and love, He waits for us with open arms, ready to receive us with compassion as His beloved son or daughter. No matter where you are, there's always a way home. Follow the prodigal son's example and return to the Lord. He stands waiting with open arms to restore you as a treasured son or daughter.
The Crosswalk Devotional is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review this podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Dale.
And I'm Tamara,
We're hosts of the Kainos Project podcast.
where we help you tackle ancient Christian truths in an everyday settings.
To learn more and subscribe, go to lifeaudio.com.